total, no? Total was 6.4 billion in 2019.
Okay. And that 6.4 billion is collection by BIR or PAGCOR, Mr. President?
This is BIR, Mr. President.
And did they get that from service providers or from the offshore gaming operators, foreign or domestic? Would you have a breakdown of that,
This is
Mr.
POGO,
President?
Mr. President. The amount that I just gave is from POGOs.
From the POGO, both foreign and domestic.
Both, Mr. President.
Okay.
No service, that's not include service providers.
Okay. And would this be the 5% franchise tax that the BIR should be collecting?
No, that's only a part. The 5% franchise tax is just 106 million.
And what was the 6 billion that you were mentioning, Mr. President?
Yeah, so I'll read it into the record. Income tax is 664 million. Business tax, which is VAT, basically VAT and percentage tax, is 90 million and 300 million. Huh? 300,000. Sorry. 90 million VAT, and then percentage tax is 300,000. And then compensation and final withholding tax is 4.2 billion. Expanded and other taxes is 886 million. Dock stamp tax is 81 million. And others is 363 million. The total is 6.4 billion.
Was the BIR able to collect the 5% franchise tax in 2019?
Yes, Mr. President, 106 million.
Only 106 million. And how much?
Yes, it's so small in
Yes.
comparison to all the other related taxes.
And that was during the peak of POGO in 2019, no? Okay. And what about the PAGCOR, Mr. President? How much did they pay in regulatory fees to PAGCOR?
What's the PAGCOR?
While you're looking for the figures, Mr. President, maybe
Yes.
we can, yes, maybe we can talk about the industry first. Okay?
Okay, sure. Wait, here, I have it.
Okay, please, yes.
For 2019, 5.7 billion.
That is correct. 5,740,000,000. And would that be 2% of the gross gaming revenue?
Yes, Mr. President, that's the 2%.
Okay, if that is 2%, then what would be the gross gaming revenue?
176.5 billion. That's
Wouldn't it be about 287 billion? 2% would be about 5.7 billion.
collected. Is it as simple as that?
Di ba? Yung 2% regulatory fee is 5.7 billion. Ergo, gross gaming revenue is 287 billion. Minus payout na yun. And the point I'm driving at is that the BIR should have collected, kung 5% franchise tax, 14.3 billion. Would that be correct? Distinguished sponsor, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Mr. President. There's an explanation. I'm trying to summarize it before I
Sorry for
respond.
that. Sorry for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President, for your patience. Now let me show you the difference in the numbers. Estimated unpaid franchise taxes according to PAGCOR are as follows. PAGCOR offshore gaming income is 5,734,000,000. The regulatory fee rate is 2%. So the presumptive gross gaming revenue was 286,733,000,000.
Correct.
Okay?
I said yes.
But, yes, but what was collected was only 176.5 billion. So that's
Huh?
so that's the difference, the 176 billion versus the 286. Magkaiba yung figures, Mr. President.
Okay. So the point I'm driving at is this, Mr. President. Okay. They paid, POGO industry paid PAGCOR 2% regulatory fee, and that's 5.7 billion. Ergo, according to PAGCOR, because they have the audit, they're the auditors, they have a third-party auditor, that the gross gaming revenue is 287 billion. Okay, that's for 2019. And if the gross gaming revenue was 287 and PAGCOR collected 5.7 billion, which is correct, why did the BIR not collect 14.3 billion? That is the question.
Yes, I understand, Mr. President, because His Honor is correct with the numbers he gave, because what should have been collected, the franchise tax due, is 14 billion. We agree on that. However, what I'm trying to explain, which I'm having a difficulty explaining because I don't understand the reason why, is that their computation for gross gaming revenue is just 176.
Yes.
As
Let
to
me
why
get to
that there is that difference, that is what I'm trying to ask them to tell me.
So sa madaling salita, hindi nag-uusap ang BIR at ang PAGCOR. Right? Because the regulatory body
If I may, I wish His Honor was here to look at people looking at each other, because I have no answer to give His Honor when they cannot tell me what happened to the 100 billion.
Okay, I'm just putting that on record. So someone dropped the ball. And clearly, in this case, it is the BIR. Diba? Maliwanag yun eh. Because they paid 5.7. Frankly speaking, I think that the gross gaming revenues are even beyond 287 billion. Okay, and that's
Well,
why
we,
I feel.
yes.
That's why I'm the principal author of this measure. Okay?
We
Because
believe
it is
you,
a
Your
huge,
Honor.
It is huge. Okay, now, next point. In the bill, I'll try to make it as short as possible, no, because I support the measure. Okay? And I am here to help the sponsor defend the measure because I am one of the principal authors, if not the principal
Thank you.
author.
Please be my
Yes.
guest.
Yes, yes. Okay. So let's just, and I wanted to put this on record as well, Mr. President. No? And according to PAGCOR, how many employees are there in the industry? Foreign nationals. Isn't it 118,000 according to PAGCOR?
His Honor is asking foreign. Anong binigay ko kanina?
In 2019,
2019.
yes, during the big 118,000. I'll use their figure first. I think yeah, we got this during the committee hearing anyway. So it's about 118,000.
That's the DOLE number. I'm not sure if BIR has the same number. PAGCOR has the same number, but DOLE
That is the PAGCOR number.
118,000.
Yes, 180. That is the PAGCOR number because the DOLE number is 183,000. Okay, but let's first use the PAGCOR number 118,000. Under this bill, okay, if you have a presumptive income tax of 25% of 600,000, and that is what is in the bill, wouldn't we collect another 17.7 billion
25%.
of the 600,000 times 118,000? That's 17.7 billion,
Yes, Your Honor.
right? Ergo, in 2019, we should have collected, including the 2% regulatory fee, 38 billion.
Asan yung sa compensation? 28, what did he say?
Di ba?
Is it the same?
And that's why we have a presumptive income tax here. Although later on, when I get to the page by page on the bill, there might be a constitutional issue on that because I'm not aware of any other law that we have a presumptive income tax. But I'm willing to try it. Now, having said that, again, naulitin ko lang what would have been collected in 2019 would be 38 billion, di ba? Gross gaming revenue, 287. I even think that is way below what the actual gross gaming revenue is. 2% regulatory fee, 5.7 billion. 5% franchise tax would have been 14.3 billion. Compensation income tax would have been 17.7 billion under this bill. Ergo, roughly 38 billion pesos in 2019. And that assumes, of course, the gross gaming revenue of 287 billion and the number of employees of 118,000 according to PAGCOR. Okay? Now, if we use the number of DOLE at 183,000, then the computation for compensation income withheld would have been 27.5 billion
Yes, that is correct, Your Honor.
at 183,000. Okay? And the more employees, there is also a computation for every employee, how much gaming revenue yung factor rate per employee. And according to PricewaterhouseCooper, gross gaming revenue should have been at least 540 billion, double that of what PAGCOR says at 287. And if that were the case, then the total collection should be roughly 65 billion. It is huge.
Yes, we note that, Your Honor.
Okay, and one last point on this issue, Mr. President. There are those who even say in the real estate industry, because in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, the bigger percentage the bigger percentage of office space went into the BPO industry. I'm sorry, the POGO industry more than the BPO industry.
Yes, we've heard
And
that also.
according to some, based on the lease space of POGO, employees would have gone up to 470,000. It's like a new middle class in Metro Manila.
Noted on that, yes, Mr. President.
Ergo, the collections could even top 100 billion. That's how huge the industry is. And because of that, because nagkaroon ng COVID, nagsara yung POGO, and we all know that real estate prices have gone down, especially commercial, including residential, mga condo. Okay? And together with the economy. Okay? So I just wanted to put that on record. And now, one more thing. Before I get to the bill itself. Ano ba talaga yung POGO? What is this all about? So this is not gambling of Filipinos.
No.
Okay? And who is the market here? Who is the biggest market ng POGO?
Chinese nationals residing in China.
Residing in China. And isn't it bawal ang gambling sa China?
Yes.
It is illegal. Okay?
Yes.
And considering that the Philippines is so near China, okay, we have we have a comparative advantage. It only makes sense that many Chinese nationals, enterprising entrepreneurs, Filipinos and probably Chinese as well, thought of this industry. Okay? And hired Chinese because the market is China as well. So may mga agents sila to get people to, what do you call this? To gamble online, and then they have facilities in the Philippines and outside of the Philippines, but then most of their employees are Chinese.
Yes.
That's why most are actually in the Philippines. Isn't that correct? We're so
Yes,
close
Mr.
to China.
President. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that is clear. So hindi to gambling ng Pilipino. Meron mga entrepreneurs sa Pilipinas who hired Chinese to get bets of Chinese. Now, incidentally, this works like a casino. Isn't that correct?
Yes, pretty much, Mr. President.
Almost
Except
all the
it's
games.
online.
Yeah, almost all the games that the casino operator does under POGO, they're doing it online.
Yes.
Okay? Now,
Yes.
because it's online, it is even more profitable because there are no brick and mortars.
Yes,
Just
Mr.
like
President.
digital banking today. Hindi mo na kailangan ng maraming branch. Di ba? Digital na eh. Okay? And that's why the banks are moving toward digital banking. Same thing with POGO. Their cost to operate is much lower than the regular casino. Sa casino, you're limited pa by your space. But itong online ng offshore gaming natin dito, yung POGO, there is no space limitation.
That's right.
Okay? So same things, I was listening to the exchanges earlier with online sabong. No? Unfortunately, online sabong, karamihan Pilipino yung tumataya within the Philippines and OFWs.
That's right.
Ito, iba to. Chinese ang tumataya, hindi Pilipino.
Yes, we made that distinction, Your Honor. You're
Yes.
right.
And we're very practical here. Kung talagang nangyayari, kolektahin na lang natin ito.
Well,
Then,
that is what we spread into the record.
Yes. Bagsak ang koleksyon ng gobyerno, yung utang ng Pilipinas, 10.5 trillion na. At palaki pa yan. Okay? And that's why I filed this bill. Now, And I thank the chairman, the sponsor of this committee, for reporting it out. It's one way to increase our revenues, no, as a practical manner, no. Now let me go to the bill itself, Mr. President. Okay, just a few questions, just a few clarifications. On line, and of course, no, we cannot tax them so much because if we, taxation is always a balancing act, no. If
Yes,
we
we
tax
agree.
them so much, mamamatay, wala rin yung industriya, right?
Yes, we note that.
You tax them too low, lugi naman tayo. So it's really a balancing act, no? Zero tax, zero collection. 100% tax, zero collection din. Isn't that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So let's move on, Mr. President. I noticed that on page 2 of the committee report, line 6, double J, there is reference to the term OGL gaming agent. And I understand why that is here in this bill, no? However, having said that, it is not found in any other page or in any other section. Why is that, Madam, Mr. President?
Well, actually, Mr. President, when I saw this, my understanding was we're just replicating what is corporate law practice. That if you have a foreign company, if they will do business in the Philippines, then they need a local agent. So my understanding is, as the gentleman before you asked me, a lot of the provisions here are really clarificatory to ensure that the process that we want to put into place is now covered by law. So we
Yes.
now are recognizing that foreign-based POGOs may may operate the POGO business, but how do we capture them? You can only do that if they have a local agent. So that's a requirement. So that's the reason why it's there.
No, I understand. But I understand that, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor, but it is found kasi only in the definition of terms. Nowhere
Yes,
else.
so what you're saying is, so we defined it, and where do we now, exactly
Yes.
what I said, where is that
So,
stated? I
correct.
actually assumed that it was clarificatory because a lot of the things that I also came across, I'm told were practices that they want us to
I would, yes. At the
institutionalize. So
appropriate time,
perhaps we
yes.
have to make that amendment.
Yes, at the appropriate time, I will use this term in an amendment para hindi
Thank
masayang
you.
because I understand the importance
Yes.
of this definition of what they do, no, that gaming agent, no. But let me move forward, Mr. President. I just wanted to put that on the record. Next point, Mr. President, on page 3, line 5. O line 4, offshore gaming license audit service provider as defined in section, it says here 125A. I think at the appropriate time, maybe we can make the amendment. We're actually talking about section 22. II. Is that correct?
I will check, Mr. President. Obviously, if there's the wrong reference, we will be happy to
Yes,
correct
yes.
that.
And section 27G, not of F. Those are the references.
Okay, thank you. We will check that, Mr. President.
Yes, please. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. No, I just wanted to make the clarification. And then at the appropriate time, like I said, I will use that definition in this particular section. But we'll leave it at that appropriate time, no? Okay. There are just a few more issues, Madam President. What are the taxes being imposed here? Of course, the 5% franchise tax.
Yes,
Di
on
ba?
the POGO operators, yes.
On your
Okay,
gaming operation, di ba?
yes. And then after that would be the 25% final tax on the service providers.
No, before that, if your income is
If
not,
not, okay, yeah, on the POGOs,
yes,
there are two types of taxes, the
yes,
gaming and the non-gaming. So if it's gaming, it's the 5% tax.
yes,
And then if it is non-gaming related, then it's the 25% final tax.
fine, correct,
Sorry,
okay,
25% income tax.
correct. On the taxable income, di ba? Okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And then the next would be for the
Sorry, the next one.
the next
The
tax
next
will
one
be
would be on the service providers.
the service providers.
So there's also a 25% corporate income tax on
Yes,
the
wala
service
naman silang gaming, eh,
providers.
di ba? Wala naman
Yeah.
silang gaming.
Yes,
So
non-gaming naman.
25% on their
On
taxable
all their
income.
activities.
Yes.
Yes.
And a withholding tax on their employees.
Yes, on their employees. So on their
Okay.
employees, it's well, we discussed it very briefly a while ago, but it's 25% final withholding tax on a presumed minimum of 12,500,
Correct.
not lower than 12,500 pesos a
In
month.
fact, when we began earlier, it would appear halos yung withholding tax, if we would do a presumptive nga at 12,500 a month or 25% of 600,000, halos kasing laki ng collection sa withholding and the franchise tax.
Yes, malaki talaga, malaki.
Laki, di ba? Okay. Now, have we ever had a presumptive withholding tax in the Philippines?
Not that I am aware
Never,
of,
no?
Mr.
Never
President.
done that, no?
I asked that and
This is the first time,
yes.
which may be constitutional, But I'll put it this way, no? I'm supporting it, I'm willing to test it because, okay, assuming the Supreme Court strikes it down, what happens then? We don't lose anything because they have to pay the regular withholding taxes.
Yes, exactly. And BIR will just have to work harder in finding a basis to determine. In fact,
Correct.
even when we put that presumptive minimum, I said, I put it on record that that should not prevent them from finding the actual, because that's just a minimum. There might be a big chunk, a big number of them earning more. So that should not be, that should not inspire complacency.
Okay, but how, kasi how it's written does it say minimum ba here? I think it is a presumptive tax, It's not a
Shall
minimum.
not be lower than.
Shall not be, okay, it says so. Okay, maybe at the appropriate time, we might also provide some clarification and some amendments here. But like I said, I'm willing to support it, to test it. Because if the Supreme Court says it's unconstitutional, balik lang naman tayo sa withholding taxes in the NIRC. So
Actually, Mr. President, we would be very
of-
open, but just for the record, that was a amendment submitted by a recommendation of the minority floor leader. That language is different from the House version and probably his honors version, if I remember right.
That's fine with me. Like I said, I'm willing to test it. Wala akong problema dyan. Okay, we're just putting our thoughts on the record. Okay, now, okay, now, when we talk about income taxes here, we're only talking about taxable income, right?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, so there are some inconsistencies in language. At the appropriate time, we will make the appropriate amendments, no, or suggestions later on, no. Okay.
Please, Mr. President, we'll be happy to hear your observations.
Yes, thank you very much. Then moving forward, like I said, I promise to be quick. Wouldn't you say that this are POGOs vatable?
POGOs, Mr. President, are not vatable.
Yes. Are casinos vatable?
No, they're not, Mr.
They're
President.
not. Okay? And that's why you are correct when you say everything written here, by and large in the committee report, is similar how we treat casinos. Right?
Yes.
Okay? So if the casino and the POGO, which are one and the same, one is lang online,
Yes.
and this POGO nga, walang Pilipino tumataya dito, Okay?
Yes.
Let's make that clear, Okay?
Yes.
Unlike yung casino natin, may mga domestic pa, may mga
Yes.
di ba? Okay, now, okay. So dito naman sa POGO, if they are not vatable, then they don't pay a VAT. Okay, now, their service providers, shouldn't they be zero rated too, just like the casinos?
Mr. President, we originally had a provision indicating that the service provider was zero rated. However, DOF's position on this is that zero rated VAT on direct exports, sorry.
Yes, because essentially they're exporting, di ba? This is an export industry, in effect. And all exporters are zero rated, including their suppliers.
No, but actually, Mr. President, as overseas gaming licensees, they are considered doing business in the Philippines. The service of the accredited service providers cannot be considered as direct export of services. So they fail to comply with the requirement under the current
Okay.
VAT system.
Okay, let me test the situation, Mr. President, okay? Yung supplier, let's say, ng casino in its gaming operations, they are zero rated. Hindi yung hotel, hindi yung restaurant, on the gaming of the casino. They're zero rated. Why? Because, remember, non-vatable sila eh. Now, even exporters natin, let's say in a special economic zone, those supply, and we had this debate, it's in the create law anyway. Okay? So, the exporters who have suppliers, the exporter is not subject to VAT. Okay? The supplier sells to him, and if he pays a VAT on the supplier, he cannot get that from his sales, right? From his customer, because it's non-vatable. And ergo, that's why our exporters and their suppliers are zero rated. Now, question. There was mentioned earlier, and I do support it, no, because it's found here in the committee report, and that is the practice today. You have POGOs registered with PAGCOR, I think most of them, and you have a few registered in Cagayan. I don't know, and operational. I don't know if there are any registered in Bataan or any registered in Aurora. Or if there are any, are they operational? I don't know. But those in, let's say, in Cagayan, their suppliers are zero rated. So could you have a situation that a POGO in Cagayan is zero rated and a POGO registered with PAGCOR has to pay VAT? Shouldn't that be the same for both goods and services?
Honor, it should be the same. I am just discussing with PAGCOR now on the different treatment with the casinos,
Yes.
because they're giving me an answer, but I am not yet
Yes,
content with
yes.
it. So let
Yes.
me ask for a minute suspension so that I
That's
can.
okay. That's okay. I don't want to prolong the issue.
Okay.
I just wanted to put that on the record, and I don't intend to have a long time in this debate. No, like I said, I support the measure, no, and seeking some clarification and try to be as consistent as possible on how we treat certain industries. Because what you don't want to happen is that, okay, if it's cheaper to do business in Cagayan, I'll go to Cagayan and I won't register with PAGCOR. Di ba?
What was the last question?
No, it wasn't a question. What I said is that if it's cheaper for me to do business in Cagayan, kasi doon, zero rated na
Yes, of course. Yes, yes.
Hindi ako pupunta sa PAGCOR, di ba?
Yes, of course.
That's
Noted,
why,
Mr. President.
that's why I just mentioned that, Mr. President. No? Okay. And Okay. And here, one last item, Mr. President, because in principle, basically, we discuss all the issues. Okay? All the important issues here as a tax measure. No? Okay. Ang susi dito talaga, okay, for it to be a success, is the third-party auditor. That PAGCOR, because PAGCOR would not know. Does PAGCOR have a mechanism to determine what gross gaming revenues are? Or will the special economic zones or free ports like Cagayan have a mechanism by themselves to determine gross gaming revenues? Di ba wala? They have to
Yes.
hire a third-party
Yes,
auditor.
that is correct, Mr. President, and we acknowledge that in the bill.
Okay? Yes, it's found here, no? So yun ang pinaka-importanting bantayan.
Agree, Mr. President.
Okay? That it is really a third-party auditor. Okay? And maybe at the appropriate time, we will also introduce better language here.
Oh, we're happy. We're happy. I actually pointed that out also, that how do we
Yes.
ensure that that is reliable? And I had in the back of my mind, you know, who's this other party, or what are the parties that ensure that this third party is going to, you know, produce to ensure the whole system is reliable. So yes, we're very open to that, Mr. President. I leave that to his honor to make the proposal.
Yes, I hope it helps. No? Okay. Okay. And one last item, just to be sure, no? When we say in lieu of all taxes, the 5%, di ba? On gross gaming revenue, no? Minus payout. Okay. When we say in lieu of all taxes, aren't we referring to both direct and indirect taxes?
Yes, Mr. President. The idea there is to capture all taxes.
Di ba? So 5% lang talaga gross
Yes,
gaming
Mr.
revenue.
President. Yes.
And that is consistent with how we tax casinos too, right?
Yes, Mr. President.
When you say in lieu of all, it
Wala nang
means
iba.
indirect and direct taxes. Di ba?
Yes, Mr. President, we're referring to the gaming revenue now because we
Yes,
already
just the
established that
gaming
there's
revenue.
also
Yes.
non-gaming revenue. Yes.
Yes. Halimbawa, yeah, correct. Di ba? Okay. And then finally, so there are two types here, no? One is the offshore, okay? And one is a domestic POGO. Is that correct? Operator. One is a domestic operator, one is offshore.
Well,
Di ba?
they're both POGO.
Correct.
Yeah, it's foreign-based and Philippine-based offshore
Yes.
gaming.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Meaning to say, one is a foreign, one is Philippine, di ba?
Yes.
So dalawa yan eh. Okay? Alin yung mas marami, yung Philippine o yung foreign?
Foreign, Mr. President. 28 ba yun? 28. 28, we have 10 registered local and 28 foreign.
Okay. Okay. You know, but I'll just take that up with the sponsor, no, on these issues of foreign and local, no. I don't want to confuse the body at this point in time. And finally, there was one more item. Okay. On the suppliers, what do we call them again?
Service providers.
Service provider. Okay. Ano ba? What is a service provider? Can you give me an example of a service provider?
Yes, Mr. President. Our law actually, our bill actually recognizes different types of service providers. I'll give you examples.
Yes. And this is just to enrich the record, di ba? Okay.
Yes, of course.
What's a service provider?
These are the entities that provide components of offshore online gaming operations, which may be classified as gaming software platform provider, business processing, outsourcing provider, IT support service, strategic support providers, live studio and streaming provider, and so on.
Okay. Kasama ba dyan yung halimbawa mga restaurants for employees?
No, those are others. Those are the non-gaming services, Mr.
Correct.
President.
Pero service provider din yun, di ba?
But it's not a gaming. It's not essentials to the gaming service, to
Yes.
the gaming operations, Mr. President.
Correct. But I think they are included as service providers.
I'm not of that impression, Mr. President, personally. I'm open. As I said, I'm not an expert here, but
Yes.
to my mind, from a taxation basis, they'll end up to be taxed the
Yes.
same way.
Correct,
So
correct.
it
They will,
doesn't really
they will.
matter.
Yes. No, because I just wanted to find out from PAGCOR kasi, what are the types of their accredited? Remember, accreditation to eh. If they're not accredited, then they don't have to pay that minimum tax
Oh.
on their
Well,
employees.
Mr. President, tama kayo doon. In that sense, it's relevant. The what I read into the record are the accredited types of service providers: customer relation service, strategic support provider, IT support provider, gaming software platform, live studio and streaming provider. So wala yung pagkain, walang caterer doon. Wala dyan yung janitorial services.
Pero marami, may transportation services.
It's not in the list given to us, Mr. President. So if you ask me, I would
Okay.
say it's not included. But again, I'm open to the discussion for the body to decide.
Yeah. The reason why I bring this out also is because, our office is in the Senate, and every day in 2019, 16 to 19, nakikita natin sila. All these POGO employees, they're all around in Pasay. Right? Most of the condo units there are rented for POGO employees.
Sorry, Mr. President, kasi uwi lang ako kaagad kaya hindi ako nakarelate dun sa tanong sa observation niyo. They're all around.
Very perceptive ako eh.
Kasi nung
Tinitingnan ko
tinitingnan ko
lahat.
yung mga employees natin dito.
Tinitingnan ko lahat. And you see all these restaurants also there.
Yes.
Diba?
Not that, Mr. President. I mean,
They're
as we
owned
have
by
clearly
Filipinos.
seen.
These are service providers. So malaki yung business na to.
Yes, malaki. That we recognize. And if His Honor is asking what other, in what ways is our economy affected, what other businesses blossom or sprout up because of this, marami yan, endless yan, di ba?
Marami yan.
But I may not necessarily agree that they should be classified as service providers. That's
Okay.
my point, Your Honor.
Yeah, understood. I'll just take it up with the sponsor at the appropriate time, some of the amendments at the same
Yes, sure,
time,
Mr.
maybe
President.
formally for a better understanding of this industry. But like I said earlier, in 2019, gross gaming revenue could have been 287 billion to as high as 1 trillion pesos based on PricewaterhouseCooper study. LeeChiu Properties. Based on the rental property, they estimate that the employees would be as high as 470,000 in the industry. Ganun kalaki. Okay? Now, of course, I understand that some of our colleagues and I too myself have concerns on the social cultural issues, di ba? Naintindihan ko rin lahat yon. No? Yung problema na napakaraming mga foreign nationals dito and they've not been able to assimilate to the Philippine culture and all of these are valid issues. But the reason why I did file the bill was on the practical side, more or less, more so now that we need the revenues. Okay.
Noted, Mr. President.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Sponsor. Thank you, Mr. President.